20 labels, 1 sheet of paper and an abundance of tips and ideas. Today we're making labels using just one 12 by 12 sheet of paper. I've got tips for decorating them, which I'll of course share with you today. They're pre-made embellishments that you just tear off and add to a journal page or a pocket or an envelope, whatever embellishments you want to create. They're quick to make, they use unloved supplies, and they are fantastically satisfying to create. I have process steps as usual, so you can take a screenshot today. They're also in Pinterest. Let's make some labels. So today we're going to make 2 or 3 of these, enough to give you inspiration to use your own supplies and make some in your own style. And I'll also do a little bit of a close-up at the end of the video if you want to see these in a bit more detail. I have got lots and lots on my desk, as you can see. I will also share as many of the tips as I can possibly fit in today. So these are also in Pinterest, and whichever tips I don't manage to get to, obviously you can find them and maybe think about using them yourself. I've grouped them to make life really easy. So just to let you know, I've got tips for when you're kicking off making your labels, things to think about. I've got tips for when you're actually decorating, so just to give you that encouragement to use your supplies and use the whole range of them. And then also some tips in this box C here for finishing them off. So hopefully that's useful to you. The paper that I suggest and the supplies are on my desk. I'm going to do a really quick whiz around to show you what I'm suggesting you use. I like using 12 by 12, and the reason for that is it makes production of these labels a lot quicker, but you can use any sort of paper. The width of the 12 by 12 means that when we cut we can do a row of 4, which makes life, I think, quite satisfying when you get into the rhythm of doing a particular style. But as I say, any sort of paper is fine. What you don't want is anything too thick, because we're going to tear these off and put them on other embellishments, and we're going to do a little bit of folding to get some of those beautiful little corners, and thicker paper or card would just make life a bit too difficult. I do think this is a great opportunity for using supplies that you don't particularly reach for. So definitely paints and stamps, and I'll use some of those today. I'm going to show you how I get the interesting corners on my labels, but I will also show you how to do that with no tools at all. You don't have to have any tools today. I've got some of those jagged edge scissors, the fancy scissors. I'm going to have a play with those, so I'll show you where they come in. These are the little templates I'll show you how to make so that you can get those corners and make it look like a label. And really these are just some of the other items that I've been playing with. So I've got some fabric here, I've got some sequins, I've got a snippet roll, making use of that. I've been using some of my flowers that I made in a video the other week, and I've also got jigsaw pieces, or puzzle pieces as they're sometimes called, and obviously some scraps for the collage. So let's get on and make some of these labels, and we'll start with just cutting that piece of paper down to size. I'll give you the dimensions. So the first thing we're going to do is cut down our piece of paper, so our 12 by 12 if that's what you're using. And I like to cut out 5 strips, so 2 strips that are slightly larger and 2 that are slightly smaller. So the sizes I go for are obviously the full 12-inch width, and I cut 2 that are 3 inches tall, and I cut out 3 that are 2 inches tall. So basically I halve the sheet, then I divide 1/2 into 3 and 1 into 2. And these seem to work really well for the kind of label size that I want, but you can make these in any size at all. Obviously if you've got 12 by 12 it makes sense to use the whole run of the width, but the height you can vary, and I think they do look quite cute in different sizes. I did have a play when I got going, and I just landed on that as a sort of efficient and pretty size to do these in. If you want to have larger labels, you could even take them to be you know, another couple of inches tall if that's what you want to do. Imagine them on the page of a journal or maybe on a pocket. When you have cut them out, what we want to do is make some of these indentations that turn them from being just a strip into what looks like a label. And I've done that in a few different ways. I've got some techniques to share that mean you can do it without any special tools. You don't need a crocodile, which I have, I think, seen on some videos. So as you can see, on some of them I've got this gorgeous little fluty edge, and some of them are just a basic label shape. So to get them, the first thing you need to do, let's move our beautiful orange piece of paper away, is fold these. Let's pick the larger one. Fold these and give them some crisp folds, and neat is good today if you can. Let's get my little bone folder, nice and crisp. So fold it in half, open it up and bring the outer edge into that middle crease, fold that down, and then do the same with the other end. And the reason you want it to be even if possible is it just makes those corner rounding steps a little bit easier to do. So all we're doing is dividing it into 4 to begin with, and with the smaller piece I'd do exactly the same. Now let's talk about the corner rounding. If you don't have any tools, if you don't have a corner rounder or scissors or special tools to do this, or even a die. I don't have dies, really. I just don't have any. So you can make a template and that will speed things up. And all I do is I take a bit of thick paper or card, and I create a template that's the size of the label that I want to work with. Another reason to make regular shaped labels and do repeat making. And I cut a corner which is 1 centimetre down on either side, so you can see the larger one and the smaller one. And then if I want to make those indentations, those little corners, I take my piece of card, I just put that on top, grab a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to snip the corner off. How easy is that? It's just like that, and like that, and you've got a corner done there. And just work your way down, and obviously exactly the same regardless of the size of the piece of paper. There we go, like that. So that I did to begin with, and then I took a look at what little bits of kit I had around my craft room, and I found a few other tools and toys. So I have got some of these little punches which are meant for corners. And what brand are these? Does it say? I don't know actually. If I take one of these corners, they do work, but they're actually quite slow. And I'm not one for doing anything that's difficult. You get a nice fancy corner. I like that. But it wasn't as fast as another tool I have on my desk. But you can use these corner rounders. I have another one here. This has got 3 fancy corners. It's Fiskars, and I had a play with that, but I found that really stiff. I might have to do something to make it a bit easier to push out, but I didn't find that easy to manipulate. You can do them with standard corner rounders. So I use this a lot in my junk journal pages. This is an X-cut, really, really easy, secondhand from eBay. I get a nice corner there. Or let's find the little one that I've decided I like most of all, my little bat wing corner here. It's really easy to hold in the palm of my hand and it presses down easily. One final technique is if you have any of these little scissors. So I don't use these very much, and it's really great to feel that I'm making use of them. They are the brand, oh no, that's the design, Art Deco. They're Fiskars again. If you have one of these with the very pointy edge, the cutting edge, you can take your corner from your label, put it through the little gap there, and I do it by eye rather than using the guide, which does exist. Wrong way. So just through the gap, and then I can just snip a corner off and I get this lovely little Art Deco corner, and it would work just the same if you folded this and worked your way along. I'm going to start by making this slightly eclectic but unbelievably easy one, and I think this one would be absolutely incredible for adding to lots and lots of pockets. It's a great size and it's got beautiful greens, white splats, black splats, some vibrant colour backed onto some beautiful purple paper. So I've got the same purple paper here, and just to show you, this is a small piece from actually an A4 piece of paper, and I do have actually a tip, an economy tip. So here's the piece that it came from. Obviously this is not as wide as our 12 by 12, so what I do is I tear a piece off anyway, and obviously I make it not as deep as the label itself, and then I divide that into 4 and I collage the extra space that's needed because this falls short widthways. So you can see it's just a little bit short, and I just decide which of these ends I want to position it at. Do I want it on the left or the right? And I fill in the gap, and sometimes I'll take my corner rounder again and I'll give the little bit of collage that's going in the centre of my label a clip as well. I do use glue sticks for this project. I like the fact that it's not too liquid, so that can just go down there. And when I'm working out how big I want these pieces to be, I have another little tip, which is just imagining a little rectangle in the centre here. So I literally picture a little bit in from each of these corners, the same distance, and I can visualise a rectangle here, and that's what I'm filling in. Now obviously you can fill in more and make this even more eclectic, but I just like to feel like the shape is being defined by this central decoration to the label. Just my design way of doing it. Just going to take a piece of neutral collage paper, and how great to be using so many of our scraps. I've not glued that completely down, that's the way I do it. Put that on there and try and get that to roughly be where that rectangle was in my mind's eye. I'll just finish collaging that. And that leaves me with an edge here, which I typically cover up with some kind of washi. So I've got a really narrow one. This is Stationery Pal. It's probably a discount code in the video description box below. And I like this one because it's relatively see-through and it's got black as its decoration. And black, when you've already got colour, is superb because you're not really introducing another colour. And then what I've really been enjoying doing is taking my archival ink, stamping, and just using my paints to add an extra bit of dimension. I love stamping on any pattern paper. It doesn't have to be digitals, we don't have to use digitals, but I just like to take some of my green paint, my unbelievably messy, nearly finished green paint, and just add that personal touch to the leaves. And for something like this that's vibrant, I would go for maybe the limey yellow coloured green, and for others I'd pick a different colour of green and I'd maybe put a touch of blue in it. Experiment, play, have fun. And this is one style of label. Any combination of your little bits and bobs works incredibly well. I think I will just go round it with dots and dashes, just give it a bit of definition, just like faux sewing really, faux stitches. And in the finishing box C on the tip sheet you'll see that I've also been suggesting that you add splats. So I'm just going to turn around and do those in my splat box. So I've gone in my splat box and added a few dots of paint, and I've got just a nice finished label here now that would be great if I want to just tear one off. Shall we do it? So I just tear like that. Remember, the crisp fold that we did will make it easy to tear, and you've got something readily available to put on a journal page or a pocket or an envelope. Let's have a go at one other design. One of the designs I really like is these handmade flowers on the larger piece of label. So I thought I'd have a go at one of those. I quite like having some paper behind with text, so I'll just tear down a piece that will fit on this paper. I think that is K&Co paper. I really like it, particularly for autumn. And although you can't see a lot of the mat that the flower sits on, once it's on, you just see a little bit peeking out. I think it's worth putting it on, and I like to just put the flower to the left-hand side just to give a little bit of whimsy to it. So I'll tear a piece down in my little rectangular size. So just trying to get the same amount of border in, basically, so that when this is stuck in the middle, it's even on each side. And I think as well, I'll give that a bit of corner rounding. One thing I like to do, if I have a corner that's been cut, or actually trimmed with the fluted edge there, so that's got an indentation, I will try to use a different tool and get a different corner effect on the mat in the middle, because I don't like having exactly the same on both the exterior of the label and the mat that goes in the middle. I like to have a little bit of something different. So that could go on there, and then I need a flower. So I made some flowers a couple of weeks ago. Here's the box of messy flowers. So I've got some made up. Maybe we'll make one today. Pick something. Ooh, nice. Ooh, there's a nice one. Right. That is really nice. Like something plain behind. Finally, we get there. Right. Glue. And I want the petals to sit. If I've got petals here, I want that in the gap of the petals behind. And that can go on top. Put it to the left. And it needs a focal point. It needs something at the centre. So I've got some black felt. It's sticky. I'm just going to cut a small wonky circle out of this. You could put a piece of paper. So I did make these flowers a couple of weeks ago. They don't need tools. You can get a great effect. So you can make flowers like this. Sunflower, put them on a journal card. And I've got some left over. Back. Put that in the middle. And what this really does deserve is a bit of texture. So as well as doing the splatting, which I would also do with this, is give it a little bit of mica like that. So a little bit of black. Should have done the mica last, I think. It's running a bit, it doesn't matter. A bit of green, that's nice. Definitely, just to lift it, a bit of that yellow. So we've done a big one, we've done a small one. Let's just take a look at a few examples. On this one I've stamped and painted, and I've added a few extra leaves. I've added some text, and I've even put fabric behind the text on this one to give it some texture. I really like the colours of this, and it's small and I think will be really useful. On this one I think it comes to life with the music paper, and I've combined that with another stamped and painted mushroom as well. Beautiful olive paper here, I love it. And just little scraps of washi tape on the edge. This was one of my earlier experiments. I've added a sticker, some handwriting, and a nice bold gold sequin here. On here I stamped with some letters, just over stamping here. Some I like to keep blank so they're ready to play with and add whatever I want to, according to my mood. Some are rather eclectic. I've done overstamping and I've got paper here. And on this one, I thought I'd go autumnal I've stamped and painted a little owl, and I painted the branch down below. I hope you have fun making your own labels using up all those lovely supplies. And if you have enjoyed this, then do check out my video, Easy Embellishments Using Cheap and Free Supplies, because I think you'd enjoy that one too. I hope to see you soon.